So I think we are live now.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the final talk of GedX Algiers, the Algerian version of TEDx. Joining us today is a very special guest and one we're very proud for having, Mr. Noureddine Tayebi, the CEO of Yassir. Mr. Tayebi, thank you so much for being with us today.
الله يعطيكم الصحة اللي عرفتوني. Ça fait très plaisir نكون معكم اليوم إن شاء الله. Ça sera bénéfique pour tout le monde. حابين نديرها بلونجلي ولا نخلطوها ولا كيما تحبها.
شوف اللي
الاودينس.
تساعدك، أنا كيف.
اوكي، خلطوها تصفى.
خلاص.
الو نبداو.
Yep. Okay, we can start now. So, yeah, can you just tell us a bit about Yassir, considering it's one of the biggest companies in the world right now when it comes to VTCs? And yeah, just tell us a bit how it became as big as it is, since we're talking about startups today.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think most people don't understand the business model of Yassir. Yassir actually, like ride hailing is just like one piece of the puzzle, and it was never like the end game for us. When we first started, like we wanted to. Well, first of all, like to me, Yassir is not a company; it's a mission. And when I really started it, it was kind of like with a mission to at least attempt to build a local champion that could be emulated by others. Because to me, like the biggest impediment in our region, I mean, people always complain about bureaucracy and lack of funding as being the biggest problems. I'm not saying those aren't problems, but to me, the biggest problem is the entrepreneur, him or herself. And what I mean by that is there's really clear lack of mindset, best practices, and values. And like if you look at my background, so I was born and grew up in Algeria, but like pretty much all my adult and professional life, I spent it in the US. So I actually went to the US for grad school, got my PhD from Stanford, worked in Silicon Valley pretty much ever since, first in big tech and then took the entrepreneurial path. And Yassir wasn't part of the plan at all. Like I just at some point wanted to get to pay it forward from the country, like in the country where I'm from, not just actually Algeria, honestly. I mean, like the whole North Africa. And I was doing it in a passive way. So I was doing a lot of mentoring in the region. And as I was just doing it, I mean, like it was clear to me that the biggest problem was the entrepreneur, him or herself. It wasn't bureaucracy. It wasn't lack of funding. Honestly, to me, if you have a strong entrepreneur, like those will come. Like bureaucracy is just, a hurdle that you can overcome, as simple as that. And funding, if you have like a strong business, a strong idea, funding will come one way or another. And so that kind of, as I said, like pushed me to conclude that if I was serious about doing anything, I should get involved myself with really that mission of at least attempting to build that local champion. And to me, honestly, like the best way of learning is by doing. And my dream then and now is that each and every person that would go through Yassir one day would create his or her own company, and not only like they would learn from their experience, but also will hopefully like be there to help them and hopefully really like build something even bigger. That's really my dream. So that's why I say like Yassir has never been a company, but more of a mission. So that's the first kind of like element, give you like a little background and like how Yassir started and what kind of mindset it has been, and more so like the values and the culture that we have. And then in terms of business model, when we first started, we're like what we saw was that most of the people in our region are unbanked, and actually cash is king. 99.99% of people still use cash. And if you look at why that is, it's not because of a lack of a banking system. Like banks are everywhere. It's just that people don't trust it. And one has to say it. They don't trust it because you have all these businesses that still want to use cash because there is no traceability and still can work in the informal market without paying their taxes. So that's really the real problem. It's not about, I mean, e-payment, all that stuff is total nonsense. That's not the real problem. The real problem is this: people still want to use cash because there's no traceability. They don't have to pay taxes. As simple as that. And so we're like, like we saw in this a very interesting opportunity, because we're like, if we can tap into that cash, it's very sizable. And so we started searching, like where that money is. And if you look at like household spending, not just in Algeria, it's like, pretty much, like in all the countries we currently operate in, over 80% of household spend was in food and transportation. Food, because average family size is around 6 people, so you have a lot more mouths to feed. Compare that to Europe, which is 2.1. And then transportation, you have big cities like Algiers, Tunis, Wahran, you name it, with very high density and barely any public transportation. We all suffer, like we're in Algiers, like for transportation. And so hence why people, spend more of their money in those, like segments. And so when we first started, like on-demand services that we all know about around the world, like ride-hailing, food, grocery delivery, it was pretty much inexistent. And we're like, why don't we use on-demand services, because they solve important and immediate needs. And of course, if we execute well, we could have a very large user base that will give us access to that cash and will subconsciously trust us. And once you have that trust, then it's actually easier to start providing payment and financial services. And you do it for all the sides of the marketplace. I mean, like you guys, as consumers, you just see the app, right? Like you're doing your ride hailing, your food, your grocery delivery, but there's so much actually happening on the other side. We have drivers, couriers, merchants. We connect merchants to FMCGs, wholesalers, distributors. So we have that whole ecosystem that we've been able to build through those on-demand services. And now we got to a phase where we could actually introduce, like some of these payment services. So that's really, like Yassir's business model. Yassir's business model is not about transportation. It's not about food delivery. It's not about grocery delivery. It's about creating, that like interconnected ecosystem that can allow us, like to monetize and take things to the next level.
Yeah, that's actually an incredible story, and one of the most amazing things is seeing an Algerian company make it so far and beyond the global scale. Just
Look, I
going back to
mean,
something that you mentioned
yeah,
during
I mean, we
your
need honestly, like, we need to stop, like thinking Algerian, non-Algerian. It doesn't make any difference. Like, if you have like a strong business, you'll be able to do, like you'll be able to get something at one level or another. And also, like even in Algeria, like you might not see things in tech, but there are also like like really great like success stories that happen in Algeria and like in different fields. So I think those should not be discounted at all. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just going back to something that you mentioned about people
Mm.
having successful businesses, is there something that
Mm.
you can see in someone, that you go, oh, this guy is going to be successful in the future. This
Oh
guy's going to
yeah,
make, a
totally.
successful startup.
Totally.
What are
I
these
mean,
keys that you
look,
notice?
look, I'll tell you, like when you start raising money, like, like, yeah, you go to VC funds, like venture capital firms, um, like they have three criteria. The first one is who are the founders? Two is, what's the idea, and its defensibility. Three, like what market size are we talking about? If they have the littlest doubt about the entrepreneur, even if the idea is amazing, the defensibility is amazing, the market is amazing, they will not invest. So just to tell you kind of, and this is based on data, it's not based on feelings, because they know, like what makes the business successful is the people that are running it, not the other way around. This is like based on data. It's not like based on feelings. And of course, like there are ways of, like discovering that, like how ambitious the person is, like how committed. Yeah, I mean, you could, like psychologically, like understand how those things work. That's one. And two, like you do reference checks, backgrounds, like all that stuff that like can allow you to make that decision in a sound fashion. So yeah, look, in any of these ventures, the most important is really the founder quality, and that's what I said. Like earlier, I was never or barely was able to see it in our region, unfortunately, and hence like me kind of like making that decision to at least like doing it myself in the region. So
Yeah, absolutely. And,
and
I
another point
think,
also, I also like another point that I wanted to mention. There is also like this utopian view that we try to sell, which is and like primarily kind of like romanticized picture of what's happening actually in Silicon Valley. Like young entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg, like who created Facebook, or like Larry Page and Sergey Brin that founded Google at like an early age. And they're like, oh yeah, like you have like like I'm young, I can do that, I can build a business to that scale. What people don't realize is that if you look at statistics, um like the average successful entrepreneur in Silicon Valley is over 40 years old. That's one. The experience that they had has already been like in a big corporation or, a successful startup before that. And the outliers, or, like the kind of like the exceptions that you see, like with the Facebook and the Google, early on, they were able to surround themselves like with very experienced people. So in the case of Google, the CEO wasn't the founders. It was actually Eric Schmidt, who used to be the CTO of Sun Microsystem, who used to be CEO of like some of the largest Silicon Valley companies. In the case of Facebook, it was Sheryl Sandberg, who used to be like senior VP at Google with a huge experience. So those like brought the added value. It's also, like a bit the idea was so strong that came, like from the founders, of course. And to take it to the next level, that expertise had to be there. And so yeah, so we need to all honestly, like forget, that utopian picture of, yeah, I'm 20 years old. Oh, I'm gonna be able to do it all. Sorry, someone tried to call me. So we need to basically, like get rid of that utopian picture. You can of course do it, but surround yourself with the right people that can, allow you to take things to the next level. So I think that's super duper important. And again, it also has to do with ambition. Do you want to build, like a multi-billion-dollar company, or you want to build, I don't know, like a company that makes barely any money? So that's one thing. And then also people need to understand, what really a startup is, because there's a huge misconception. Look, I mean, startup is just like an economic phenomenon of a company that has exponential growth. What does exponential growth mean? Is that, you could have double-digit growth in a month. As simple as that. Does it have to be related to technology? Absolutely not. Is every technology company a startup? Absolutely not. If you're small and you're not having that growth and you're doing technology, you're not a startup. You're a small company or like a medium-sized company, but you're not a startup. As simple as that. If the example I give is that, زعما نقولوا عندك اليوم تدخل تبيع الخضره والفاكهه ب 404 باشي في الحومه. If you have a way to scale that up exponentially, الغدوه من ذاك عندي زوج 404 باشي ومن بعدك يوليو 100 200 300 and I'm growing exponentially, that's a startup. As simple as that. And the startup has like different phases. Like you have like the starting phase, which is called like the seed phase. And then you have like the growth stage where like things like grow very quickly, and then you have the late stage. So a startup is not a small company. Even when it's big, it could still be a startup because it has that exponential growth. So people really need to understand, that meaning very clearly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just continuing on what you said about young people wanting to do startups and begin with new projects. Do you think it's important to try out a lot of projects without putting too much effort into them and seeing what works out, or putting a lot of
No.
effort into one single project and then
Look,
just working on
no,
that and
not at
trying to
all.
make that work?
No, yeah. And that's a problem. And also there was like a perversion also of, like what the concept of startup is, especially like in our country, unfortunately, with all these like nonsense events. Oh yeah, I have a startup event, I'm gonna pitch, and then, like at the end of the event, like we all scream and take pictures together, and that's the end of it. That absolutely doesn't make any sense. Look, a startup, as I said, is a company, it's a business, it needs to make money. So if you're really serious, you need to jump off the cliff. And I really love actually the introduction of, I mean, like how Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, defines what an entrepreneur is. He says an entrepreneur is someone that's gonna jump off the cliff, and before hitting the ground, will need to actually build the plane, not to die. That's literally what it is. If you're really serious, just jump off the cliff, do it. If you're waiting for a red carpet for you to be made, you're never going to be an entrepreneur. Like you need to defy the status quo. You need to push the limits of what's possible. Bureaucracy is an issue. Find a way around it. Take risks. You name it. I mean, we took huge risks, like in our business at all levels, huge risks. But because we took those risks, and of course they were calculated, and we knew how to execute, we were able to overcome them one way or another. So that's how it should be. and surround yourself with the people that can give you the right information too. I mean, there were like a lot of like legal stuff that we had to deal with, and yeah, we surrounded ourselves, like with folks that had that legal knowledge, or if they didn't have it, actually search for it and found, like the right way for us to actually get it done. So yeah, so that's super important.
Yeah, I can totally see how that mentality makes a big difference, and putting a lot of effort into one single project to bring it to life. But can you just give us a bit of advice on picking your team, how important it is, and what people you should look out for when building a team to start your
Yeah,
to
I
begin
mean,
your
look, you
startup?
need,
Because a lot of
yeah,
people,
yeah. Mhm. Well, depends on what you're doing. Of course, like technology side is super important. So you'll have to have, like good engineers and in your team. Product is super important too. So, and like product management is something, unfortunately, we kind of, like we're the first ones to bring it to Algeria, just to give you an idea. So it was pretty much virgin. So, like having that product mindset and, like being able to understand what the user wants, not what you want as a product developer, that's super important. So yeah, so if, like engineering or, like software is something that is important for the business, then by all means. And then, like overall, like it really depends on like the business, but like, again, like the main people that you want are folks that are hustlers, that have attention to details, and they have the stamina. I mean, kind of what I said about the entrepreneurs. I mean, they might not be the founders, but they have that founder mentality.
yeah, and just continuing on this, what do you think is the right moment to acquire better talented people, and what is the right moment to pick more people in general? Meaning, improving the
Well, it
quality
depends.
of your team versus the
Look, I
quantity.
mean, yeah. I mean, look, it depends on multiple factors. It depends on how big the business has gotten, what are, like the needs for that business. Do you have capital to bring these people? If you don't have capital, can those folks be paid less, but you give them equity in the company? So you give them, like shares in the company. All these aspects are super important. But to be honest with you, I mean, like in general, it's really important that compensate at least in shares like your team, because like everyone that is actually participating. هنا في الجزائر, we have that mentality. It's like, oh yeah, this is mine, I'm going to keep 100%. It's nonsense. um, so it's really important that anyone that actually participates in the success of the business should have that share of success. I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, like Yassir today, like close to 20% is owned by the team members. So, and it's their right, to be honest. I mean, they deserve it. I mean, of course, there's a legal structure to it, and there's a vesting schedule and protections and things like that. But that applies to everyone, including me. So yeah, that's really like important things that we need to think about and considerations, both in terms of like who to hire, how to compensate, and also like the equity side of things.
Yeah, and I have just one question about beginning startups. People starting out new in the field. Is it better to work with freelance, designers, developers, etc., or plan for contracts for long-term relationships with employees? Which one do you think is better for new startups?
Honestly, look, I mean, I think it's best to have your own team. But if you can't, yeah, sure. But you need to, like have a path to kind of, convert to that whenever you can. So it's really important that you have, like that in house. Again, what are your ambitions? Do you want to build, like a small business that, generates your revenue and you're happy? Or do you want, like to build, like a very big business that is going to grow exponentially and, be a leader in the region? So.
Yeah, just going off one of the questions from the comments we're getting here. How did you plan to launch Yassir, especially being here in Algeria? I know that you mentioned that you want to break the stereotype of oh, it's an Algerian company and all, but what was essentially your plan to start the company here in Algeria? And was it any different if you wanted to launch it outside in a different country, especially in the Western world?
No, it was the same. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question, to be honest. But Look, it's all about, your business model and how you're executing. And of course, like specificities of each market. The process of deciding, what the strategy and the execution is the same everywhere. But like what strategy and or execution are going to be, that depends on multiple factors. And yeah, I mean, for us, like we started like the way we thought it should be, and yeah, so that's yeah. I don't know what I can say more. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
again,
another
and I mean,
comment here
look,
again. How
look.
did
I
you go
mean,
about picking talents here from Algeria?
just one thing to add here. Sorry, like before that question. Um, you need to build something that ideally is a necessity, so that you have that product market fit. That's super important. And so don't build something that you think people want. Build something that people tell you I want or I need. So so go to the customer or the potential customer and ask the right questions, and then build your product based on that. And get your product out, even if it's the simplest possible, as soon as possible. Don't wait, oh, I need to have these like 100 features or 200 features before I launch. And just like go into that vicious circle of, working on that. And then, I don't know, 2 years later, you put it into the market, and it's like you realize that, like no one wants it because there isn't really a need or necessity, or, people are not interested. Sorry for the interruption. What was the question about like hiring talent in Algeria? Correct, Mohammed? That was a question? Mohammed, you're on mute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just the internet is acting a bit funny.
Okay.
Yeah, also moving on to the next question. For your startup, coming off of a very competitive market in the Western world, how did you approach competing with companies such as Uber? And was it ever your idea to take control of the field, or just build your own company and focus on yourself? Which one was your main priority?
No, you had a question before that I didn't respond to. I don't remember. I think it was about like hiring talent in Algeria, correct? You're on mute, Mohammed. Anyway, I'll try to respond. It seems like you have some internet connections. I'll respond to both. One, like in terms of talent, I mean, like anywhere you hire talent, like you need to make sure that they have like the right skills. And sometimes, they might not have the skills, but they have the potential. So you work with them to build up towards that. As simple as that. Um, and again, as I said, like one needs to kind of, like build these processes, recruitment and things like that to be able to get to that level. Of course, like when you're small, it's really more about, the contacts that you have, and, like you start working with people and then you realize whether they're good or not. But like my advice usually is like when you see like someone that is not good, don't keep that person. Just, let them go and find something else. On competing with Uber, we don't compete with Uber. Uber is not in any of the markets we operate in. Or if it is, like we're doing, a totally different business model. So I don't know if the question is relevant. And again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we're not reproducing ride-hailing model. To us, it's just like one segment among all the products that we're offering to get into payments. So one needs to understand our business model, which is very different.
Yeah, thank you so much. And another question here from the comments. I don't know if I can bring it up here. Yeah, how did you convince your first drivers to migrate to using the app? So how did you go about picking your first drivers, and what was your main strategy there?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, these businesses are what we call like multi-sided marketplaces. So you have, like in the case of ride-hailing, you have like customers and drivers, right? So you need to make sure that you have enough drivers so that like when your customers do their request, they have enough drivers. And so it's kind of like a chicken and egg question. So basically, like the way you do it is that like we put like an onboarding process, like we use, like different ways, classifieds, ads, you name it, that we're attracting drivers. We were pitching them the idea, kind of like an idea of how much they might be able to make, and they onboarded. So we basically did training for them, and till today, that's what we do, but we just do it at a much larger scale. That's it. Um, and then once we had kind of, like enough drivers, what we felt could allow us to start the business, then we opened it to the users, and the users, like when they would actually request a ride, they find a driver. Yeah, that's the idea. And then, like if you have like good product market fit, you start, like drivers will start coming organically, customers will start coming organically, and then at some point, like it balances out, and you have what's called like network effect, and it becomes just easier to hire on both sides. We might be able to take one more question, because sorry, I'll have to go. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we just approached the 30-minute mark here. Thank you so much, Mr. Taibi. I don't know if you want to give some final words to the viewers, especially considering we're students here, maybe some advice for future startups.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, look, if you're a student, just finish your studies and then think about something else, unless you really want to drop out of school and start your own company. Honestly, I don't advise you to start something while you're still in school. That's my own opinion. I could be wrong. But yeah, focus on what you're doing, finish your degree, and then if you're serious, like start something then. Or as I said, if you're super serious, and you want to stop your education to do it, then by all means. I mean, I'm not going to tell you do one thing or the other. Like, what's best for you. So that's one. Two, if you're doing it, key to success is that no one is going to give you the red carpet. So if you're not a hustler, if you're not pushing the limits of what's possible, if you're not that person that is actually going to jump off the cliff and build a plane before you hit the ground, try to build that mentality. Try to build, like that mindset that will allow you to take things to the next level. And then like a third key to success is really surrounding yourself with people that can help you at so many levels, that have ideally done it before, and can bring that added value. But for those people actually to come and help you, they need to be convinced that you're worth it as well. So you really need to show, that you're the right person to make it happen. So these are really kind of like the main ones that I would give to anyone. And believe in yourself. I mean, look, push the limits of what's possible. I mean, all around the world, it's like, that it's honestly the value system and the mindset that makes it or breaks it. Yeah. So.
Thank you so much, Mr. Taibi. That was some really valuable information there. It was actually an incredible pleasure to have you here with us today, sharing, your story, the success of Yassir, and giving so many keynotes and so much advice for young students, passionate people in general who want to start companies here in Algeria. And yeah, maybe we hope to see some bright minds in the future come up with equally or maybe even more competitive companies from this school, from other schools, from our community, and just seeing the
Yeah, of course.
Algerian young minds shine bright in the future. Thank you
Yeah,
so much
it
for
was,
being with
it
us
was,
here today. Thank you so
it,
much also to
it
our
was,
viewers.
yeah. I just want to say one thing. I mean, like, of course, thank you
Yeah, go
for having
ahead.
me. But I want to say, like, we should not also, like, narrow our mind just to Algeria. I mean, you could be Algerian, but you could start a business in the US or in Europe, or I don't know, like in GCC or Asia or whatever. So don't constrain yourself also, just to the Algerian market. I mean, of course, like we kind of, try to think about that because, we love our country, or, like we feel like maybe it's a good starting point. But look, be ambitious. I mean, if you feel like your business model might work like better somewhere else, just go for it. Yeah. So that was the last thing I was gonna say. All right.
Yeah,
I'll have
totally.
to drop
Yeah, it's
off.
all about following your dream. And
So so it's really great
yeah, thank you so much,
being with
Mr.
you
Taibi.
guys.
Thank you so much for your
All right.
valuable time. It's been an
All right.
absolute pleasure, as I said.
And yeah, please stop calling me Mr. Tayebi. Noureddine is more than enough. All right. All right. Take care. هاي
That's
السلامة.
okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so
ربي
much.
يحفظ.
All right, thank you so much to all of our viewers. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us here today. And just closing off GedX, for its second edition, coming off with so many valuable talks and just bringing it to an end. We hope everybody enjoyed all the valuable information, all of the speakers. We hope to hear from you soon and see you in the next event. Thank you so much.